Hello, it's July 6th, and I've been dealing with some tension lately. Um, been kind of feeling this like pull or like pull away from I feel like I'm moving in kind of like the right direction, but it's a little askew, like it's a little off. And I think the central tension there is that in the way that I've integrated my work, there's a lot of spirituality and a lot of like what's the bigger meaning and where does everything fit into this whole context? Like um, how does like a work life fit in with like um, my personal identity? And then how do like human design and hypnosis kind of like layer on top of that? And it's almost like human design itself, hypnosis itself, like some of these things already are kind of like out there in terms of like my background and like where people like have these conversations, um, like in rooms of like healthcare and science, it doesn't really come up per se unless I bring it up. Same with kind of business, right? Like there's a lot of like science and measurement and kind of like like looking for evidence that something works um, before saying that it does work. And I think like that has kind of like pulled at me. It's like a bit of a drag, like in terms of like messaging, because like how can I come out and say something like the universe is mental and then mean it and know that I understand that and then feel like I have to explain it, right? Like, do am I here responsible for convincing you that the universe is mental? Um, and this comes from like Hermetics and the Kabbalion and a lot of like different like ancient wisdoms will talk very similar ideas. Probably right now, the closest thing to this is that we live in a simulation, which is like everything is kind of made up, right? If you think of mental in terms of like those terms, then deciding whether or not we live in a simulation is probably like it's like our modern day reflection into that. But ultimately, like, what does that mean? Like, it kind of like the simulation talks about kind of like being inside a computer, but again, that's a metaphor, right? Like, are we actually living inside a computer? Probably not, right? Like, but it's a good metaphor because it helps to kind of understand it kind of helps us understand or explain kind of the environment that we live in, right? Um, not so much, maybe not so much a simulation, but like there's things where science is saying it's like the world is holographic, and that kind of idea has come through in a lot of like spiritual teachings and like ancient wisdom systems and stuff like that. And it's like science is like when we point to science to say like this is the like science doesn't say it so that it doesn't exist, we often forget what science actually is, which is a measurement on truth, right? The science doesn't come first and then the truth happens. It's the truth is always there and science is measuring that. So then I think it science gives us a lot of like mm, it gives us a lot of ways to explain and understand what's going on. That's the purpose of it. At the same time, you are living your own truth and finding like a broad truth. Like in science, there's like talking about like the power of a study and how like good the evidence is. Like, do you have a large enough sample size to get like an answer that's applicable to a large number of people, right? Ultimately, this is talking about like a standard deviation. It's like Parkinson's rule of 80/20. And it describes a lot. It describes broad trends. And then at the same time, it won't describe you specifically. So, like I was watching a video yesterday, and it was a video with the one of the founders of Sistema, and he was talking to a religious figure, because there's a lot of like religious kind of um, background to it. Like I don't fully understand, but anyways, the person was talking about how like You have to feel from the stomach and the gut. And like that sends signals up to the brain. And from the perspective of human design, that talks about the generator sacral response, which is a gut yes or no. It's like instinct, like your gut instinct. And coming from there and giving the message, like that makes sense, right? I saw another creator on TikTok talk about how the mind or the brain is like a receiver rather than a generator of thoughts. And that again lines up with the ideas of human design. It's kind of like that creator was saying that the it's being measured by science, and I agree, right? Like I totally agree with that. I don't know. I didn't know the science. I haven't read the research behind it, and at the same time, coming at it from a different angle of like human design, the head center is the center for reception of thought. So it's it's like that same idea that's said, and one is maybe anecdotal until you begin to like experience it for yourself. You can easily say like, yes, this is truth, or no, this is not my truth. And I think like the idea of truth then becomes very polarizing, because like what's true for me may not be true for you, right? Like I have my own experience of reality. I have my own experience of all of this. And it might not line up to you, or it could, but it's something that is like just a little bit far out for you, right? Because my level of understanding and my experiences are different than yours. So when I look at human design, and I know that like the head center, for example, is the center for reception of thought, like that matches my experience very well, which is to say I have an open head center, and that means like all the thoughts are like it's a receiver for that. So I have I guess sometimes it's easy for me to get lost in my thoughts. And what helps is to remember that kind of those things are from outside of me, and that it's not to follow the ones that are kind of most jarring and kind of loudest, that demand the most attention, but the ones that feel the most right. And that's kind of this the part that's like important to integrate in all of this. It's not just like a mental kind of understanding of things, but also you need to be able to feel it in your body. So that's where this program that I'm putting together is trying to come in and fill that gap of first giving you a map of who you are, right? Like that's kind of the easy part, to take a look and sit back and reflect. And then next is to move through and like let go of all the crap that's not yours. Let it all go. And then finally, like feeling into yourself, like embodying that. And I think for me, that tension becomes like if it's, if I'm not feeling into something new, like this, I think is something that as I've been trying to articulate over the last number of days, and like recently it's starting to become a little bit more clear, which is to say that it's to say that I'm starting to look at this struggle that I'm having and working on integrating it in. And what I'm realizing is that I understand the story that I want to write. Like that's getting clearer, right? So, and I understand the beliefs that are limiting, that are kind of like in the way of saying like, no, you can't go this way. Like, who wants to hear this? Nobody's going to understand you. Like that's one of the big ones of like, I feel like I have to start from the very beginning, like go to the beginning of time and explain all the way forward until this point so that other people can understand it. And at the same time, like there's a lot of messages out there that I see that are very like aligned and resonant with this. So those thoughts are out there already. So what that is logically saying to me is that there are people out there who are ready for this message. So it's something that I'm realizing that I'm like in this moment, in these moments of like the shift. And I guess like what I would imagine right now is you're observing me moving through different phases of things, right? And usually it starts like kind of like from the other way of like um, you would apply for a job and then you would get the job and then you learn to do the job as you have it, right? Um, like when that's the usual way that it works, right? You get into a role and then you figure out how to do it. Like you know that you're qualified, you've applied, and then the people who have like, that are making the decisions are like, oh yeah, this person's qualified, so I'm gonna put them into that role. And then you get into the role and you're like, I need to figure this out. Like when I first became a pharmacist, it's like I went from student to pharmacist, and there was that point. Basically, it's like, okay, like now I'm in this role, I have to be this thing. So then I need to figure it out. Otherwise, I won't be successful at it. And I did. The same thing happened when I became an owner. Like I owned my own pharmacy and I was operating that. And uh, one of the things my store administrator said to me early on was, you realize you're the boss, right? And I'm like, yeah, I know I'm the boss, right? Like, but I don't want to be the boss. I'm just like, I'm here to support all of you and blah, 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 all of that stuff. And at the same time, it's like I had to remember that I inhabit that space because there is, whether good or not, like it's just a position that people look to for either leadership, support, comfort, whatever. And to remember that it's like, oh, I need to learn how to do this role. So then I'm like put into this role, and then like I gotta like learn how to do it, right? Um, Similar types of things even when I came into my current role, because it's like I had a set way of thinking about how to do things, and it was like a very corporate kind of like business focused lens, and then getting into an academic institution and like more of a public sector role, um, the kind of like way of doing things really changed. So that was, it's almost like you put yourself into a role and then you do it. Now the difference here is like this I didn't apply for. This I'm literally, so it's like starting your own business, entrepreneuring, and then like making stuff like this. It's like I didn't apply for a role. Nobody said that I was qualified. Like, okay, and like suddenly all the external validation is not necessarily there, right? Um, and then maybe mistaking like external validation for kind of like likes and follows and things like that online has some kind of indicator to say, hey, like I'm doing the right thing, you know? And there's a lot of noise out there of like, oh, like start your videos this way and blah blah blah, and if you do this you'll have, if you do this thing you will have that thing in X amount of time. And like cool, but like it's again not my voice, right? So then if I'm thinking about like this whole entrepreneur thing, right? I've seen so many ways of people saying like, do this, do this, do this, do this, and then you will have that success. And sure, I think that's true, because there are like formulas that you can repeat and do over and over again that will work. And then at the same time, if I do that, I won't have my success. I will have your success. I will have the thing that that person is kind of has received, whatever that is. And sometimes it's like, do people that sell like these things actually have all of these outcomes? Like, I don't know. Because if it were so easy, then everybody should be doing it. Everybody could be capable of doing the same thing, and I think that they are. But success looks different to different people, and success, the path to success is different for different people. So while I do believe it's important to learn and all of this, I think that I'm gonna have to go my own way. I'm gonna have to go my own way and be okay with it, right? Like, I don't like these long meandering videos. I'm doing my best not to make them too long because like attention spans and stuff like that. And even like when I listen back, to my own videos, it's kind of like, is this like engaging? Is it? I mean, I like throwing them on in the background and like just chilling with myself. For me personally, like I have a vested interest in this, and it's also like nice to kind of revisit where I was about 3 weeks ago. Time travel. um, so yeah, that kind of like central tension between like um, tying in all of the spirituality and metaphysical stuff that's behind all of this, and how to talk about that is something that I've been questioning and just kind of like trying to like think my way through. And you know what the funny thing is that like the things that I post are not, I don't know, like are they seen by a lot of people? Like maybe they are. Like this is the other thing that's kind of sneaky, because I've had this experience over the last number of years where, or even like the last year and a half or so, where I would post content and then I wouldn't have necessarily like comments and likes and like indicators online, but then like people that I know that I see in person, they're like, I saw that thing that you posted, I liked it, or I like what you post, basically. And it's really nice to hear those types of things, because then it's like it's kind of my feedback, right? That's my external validation that somebody likes it, you know. Um, and then like there's that added layer in the back of like, are people just saying this because they know me? Um, and maybe, but then I guess like people will only say things if they know who you are and that matches, and then they like it. So like that's just my like overthinking of like those intrusive thoughts. Intrusive. um, so then I think I'm at this point where like in my personal like conversations with people, I love chaos. I think chaos is so much fun, and I think chaos is our natural state. Like that's what science says, right? Like entropy, like the system always gets more disordered and all of this stuff. From a like mechanical, material, physical level, like classical physics, right? There's chaos. I think chaos really is like, chaos is the vibe of the world, in the sense that we all have to beat to our own drum. But when we're beating to our own drum, what we find is that those beats start to synchronize, whether it's in layers or in harmonies or in other ways of meshing together. I think that's where the beauty is, because if you pause for a moment right now, the world exists as it is. Whatever is happening in the world, there are good things that are happening in the world, there are bad things that are happening in the world, and there's everything all in between. And at the same time, it's like this is all that we have right now. So in my sphere of influence of what I can do, I can move in the ways that I can, looking for those opportunities. And maybe some, it's all part of a whole, because maybe I may not be the one to make the biggest impact, and that's fine. But if I can make a big impact on a small number of people, that would be more than fine. So my point is, if I send out okay, so here it is. I've spent the last years trying to tailor that message, trying to like close it off and um, find the right way of presenting myself. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. So it's, I think, leaning into that, like, I want to call it chaotic energy, but not in like a messed up, like everything's destruction kind of way, but in a like, there are no rules, there are no boundaries for myself kind of way. And I think living like that would be really freeing. Don't comment on how messy my desk is. I'm gonna go now.